Welcome to this week's chapter of Mashle Magic and Muscle, Chapter 68 Wahlberg Bygone and the Magic of Darkness. This chapter obviously focuses on the battle between probably the two most powerful people in the series, and to me personally the most exciting fight, because as cool as it is to see Mash pull some amazing stunt off with his muscle strength and his brute force, but seeing how inventive magic is in this series and how it has potential to make for some interesting clashes between different kind of magic and skill sets. So while Mash's fights are exciting, they don't allow for clashes of intelligence like magic fights do, mainly because Mash doesn't have access to a grand array of possible moves. So, the chapter starts off with Necros thinking to himself about how Wahlberg is the former divine visionary who brought order to the realm and how even now he rules at the top of the magical world, so his power makes him the strongest in the world. It's nice to see that even the enemy appreciates the old man's power. That being said, I wonder how he would stack up against the other visionaries. Would he have been able to brute force Mash's trial if he had wanted to? And if so, what would it take to actually put this old coot down? However, Necros smiles, showing off his large, shark-like teeth as he thinks on how it's only in this superficial world that Wahlberg reigns as the strongest, before commanding Adam's body to attack with a spell called Dark Impact, which sends forth a tremendously powerful burst of dark magic, which according to Necros returns everything to the void. Specifically, he mentions that Adam's dark magic is capable of this, so I assume that the dark magic of Rain isn't up to that level yet if it could ever reach that pinnacle. Also, it's interesting that Necros is capable of not only commanding the corpse but forcing it to use the spells Adam presumably knew in life. I wonder if he has prior experience with Adam to know these spells, or if his magic gives him an innate understanding and ability to use the spells of those he controls. Either way, he sends forth a spell called Dark Snake, which sends forth a giant serpentine creature with an open-fanged mouth at Wahlberg, managing to destroy his left sleeve but otherwise seems to leave him unharmed. However, the man himself seems to either be surprised or take note of something which isn't obvious to me. Perhaps he is just surprised to see his master's magic being used by another. We then learn from Necros's thoughts that not even other magics are an exception to Adam's dark magic, so you can't repel it with any other form of spell. Then Necros speaks on how Adam is a delightful toy, so he'll keep using him before sending forth two dark snakes at Wahlberg. If there was any way to get under the old man's skin, it would be calling his master a toy, and he seems to demonstrate that anger when he managed to somehow knock away the giant serpents, to the utter disbelief of Necros. Wahlberg then sent forth the four little satellites which floated around the central star of his one forwards, and as they cut through Necros, his left arm completely vanishes, along with his legs and a chunk out the left side of his head. Unfortunately, this doesn't kill him, as Wahlberg explains that his magic controls space, so he only sent his body parts a short distance away, so it won't kill him. For anyone who has read One Piece, you can think of this as being similar to Law's Devil Fruit, the Ope no Mi, which allows him to remove body parts from a person, but they still function like they are attached. I do however wonder, if he wanted to be gruesome, if he could deactivate the magic and just let the natural effect of missing such body parts come into effect, or if the missing body parts would just return to their owner. Anyway, it is at this point that Necros realized how Wahlberg was dealing with the dark magic. He was removing them from space itself, which is pretty smart way of dealing with it. If you can't directly come into contact with something, move that which surrounds it instead. It's like he made a transparent box around the darkness and moved that box somewhere else without actually touching the darkness. Neat way of overcoming a seemingly unstoppable force. However, Necros fails to realize the genius of this and simple attempts to attack him again, this time using a more powerful spell called Dark Impact Absol, which seems to send forth spiraling, drilling tentacles towards the old man, as Necros seems to be losing his mind over the sheer absurdity of what Wahlberg has accomplished. Believing that not even this old man, who is the strongest of the current world, can perform such a feat as to get rid of all the attacks at once. This however turns out to be remarkable untrue, as all the satellites have returned to Wahlberg and he removes the dark magic with seemingly very little effort on his part. Necros, reasonable and quite comedically points out just how broken Wahlberg's magic is and how it is unfair that it has such range to it, which is quite true. Wahlberg is very broken and is honestly probably the most terrifying person in this entire series. Not even Father has come this close to displaying just absolutely godly power, and that makes me feel very afraid for what will come from the end of this fight. But anyway, back in the fight, Necros is now absolutely losing his mind. Thinking on how he is controlling the man who once had the world in the palm of his hand, and even if Wahlberg is the strongest now, the skill gap between them cannot be this great, especially not with dark magic standing at the top of all magics. That is certainly an interesting take. I wonder if there is any founding in that belief or just based upon Adam's own displays in the past. Also, I have doubts if Necros can even truly bring forth the true strength of Adam, because even if he is a perfect puppet master, a puppet is still a puppet, and the man who was Adam would certainly be capable of more with his own magic than what an imitator would be capable of. Also, it should be noted that Adam doesn't seem to be very old, and Wahlberg is very old, so the time between Adam's death and now, a great deal can change. We then get a cool image of Adam standing in a ring of darkness with his scythe wand raised up as a giant black fireball flies towards Wahlberg. This spell is called Dark Tremendous. This is the last resort, the strongest dark magic spell, so with absolute faith Necros declares that when their two spells clash there is no way the dark magic can lose. I cannot even begin to describe how wrong he was, but the fact that Wahlberg starts laugh with his eyes shadowed out should be all the information you need to know that Necros is absolutely and completely fucked. But just to drive it in, he mocks the imitator, asking him spells before correcting him, as until now, everything till now has just been his wand's ability, and so if he wants to see him cast a spell he should pay attention. Magical power most likely dwarfing anything seen before in the series and probably won't be contested for a long time after, as Wahlberg's hair whips around in the transcendent power. Necros absolutely freaks. Wahlberg then casts perhaps one of the very few spells we might ever get to see from him, Space Sacrifice, and it seems to create a diamond with each of the satellites of his wand at the corners. What the spell does exactly is unknown, but it does turn the giant fireball into Pac-Man on the final page, makes Necros look like Cell War when he was fighting MASH, and causes Father to smile, thinking to himself about how his old colleague hasn't declined at all. That is where the chapter ends. However, I do have some thoughts before I end the video, so here goes. The thing that has me most worried at the moment, not for the sake of the story but for the characters, I fear that Father is going to find a way to take down Wahlberg, and then, if Necros isn't killed, they will have an even more powerful weapon to be used against our heroes. In fact, I can see this entire arc ending with MASH staying at the school, avoiding his execution and perhaps becoming a divine visionary, but just to sour the taste of victory. Father gets Wahlberg's corpse, and then sometime down the line, MASH has to face off against Wahlberg, or some other character has to do so. Actually, I just had a funny idea. If anyone is going to fight against Wahlberg's corpse other than MASH, I could actually see it being Finn, based on the fact they both control space in their own unique ways. Seems impossible now, but maybe at some point it can happen, as they seem to have a core similarity. But that's all I had to say for this video. I have been the Anonymous Weeb. I wish you a good day or night wherever you are, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with when I upload a new video.